Sean Strickland's coach reveals how he managed to transform him from a wild, unstable person that couldn't stay with a specific gym more than a few months to one of the most important members of the team they lead together now. Eric Niksic's relationship with the former middleweight champion has been well known to the MMA community for a long time now, and we've seen Sean grow into one of the team leaders, running sessions and sometimes be an acting coach for his teammates, especially on sparring days. Strickland's wild sparring preferences, such as going 100% with any opponent no matter their weight class, made him more popular, as the public often got to see videos of him doing some of that stuff in his gym. But nowadays, he's become more reserved and taken on more responsibilities, all of which help him stay on track as he attempts to reclaim his championship title from Dricus in their rematch. His coach, Eric Niksic, talked about the necessary changes that Strickland went through to become a serious player in the sport.
You know, my dad coached football here forever. I kind of picked his brain on just kind of how to handle guys like him. And the first thing my dad told me is give him responsibility. He said, find ways to make him feel like he belongs. Give him self-actualization, like something that he feels like he can hang his hat on. So I started like inquiring more to, hey man, like I'm running this practice. Why don't you run a segment of this practice? Me? You want me to run some stuff? Yeah, bro, you're really good in this area. Why don't you run something? And then slowly but surely, he started to become more and more of a teammate, where before it was like we were a resource and he would just use as much as he could out of everybody and then move on to the next spot. But then he started to realize, I think, that he had this family here. And that's when I really started to see him flourish, Mike, to be honest with you. Like, hey, we're not going to leave you. We're not going to kick you out. You have a brash personality. We don't listen to half the shit you say anyway. But I mean, really, it was more about like coaching him on approach.
Big John and Josh discussed the state of the light heavyweight division's title picture. With Yuri knocking out Jamal and Alex Pereira's fight with Magomed Ankalaev announced, things have become much clearer at 205. Soon we will find out whether the division gets a new champion, which, considering the problems that the matchup with Ankalaev presents to Pereira, is certainly a possibility. But also, we've got Yuri as one of the players orbiting the title, waiting to get another chance. Jamal has some regrouping to do, and his climb back to a title fight, if it happens, will certainly take some time. Blauwich is back as well, fighting Olberg in March. But the most important part of this all is, of course, the next title fight, which is perhaps the most anticipated matchup of Alex Pereira's since his fights with Adesanya. Magomed's wrestling, if he uses it, can become a deciding factor in their clash, which is an intriguing piece in all of this. John McCarthy and Josh Thompson talk 205.
Yuri, man, he looked great. He looked great. Do I think he beats Alex? No.
Nope.
Nope. I don't think he does. I mean, third time's, I mean, for not even for Izzy was it a charm, you know? But like, that's kind of where you're at. Like, how many times has Alex got to beat people to, you know, for us to be like, all right, let's move on. But look, Alex Chama's got a big fight in front of him. They announced the Magomed Ankalaev fight. Tough fight, man. Tough. Does Ankalaev stand? Does he take him down? I think he stands because he's bitten into it too much. I think he has to stand. Tonight, what I saw, Hill, he's going to have to take a back burner. Let's look for Hill and Khalil Roundtree now. Remember all that talk? He's like, you're not on my level, win a fight, da-da-da. Now, Hill's in a position of like, I'll take any fight I can get to give me back to the title.
Yeah, hold on. He's a long ways from a title shot.
But so is Khalil.
And Khalil's not as far as Jamal Hill is.
Islam Makhachev's boxing coach reveals a dangerous moment, which almost resulted in Islam physically attacking a reporter after his disrespectful gesture. Speaking with the Russian channel Ushataika, Magomed Abdulakimov was asked many questions regarding things like Islam's improved boxing skills, his finish of Moicano, and a potential move to the welterweight division. All of the things that have been discussed many times by members of his team, different analysts and commentators, or Islam himself, so nothing really interesting there. There was one interesting moment, however, when Magomed dropped behind the scenes story, with Islam almost hitting a reporter after he asked him a ridiculous question and offered a specific type of underwear to Islam for his use. Some have seen this clip of Makhachev getting visibly disgusted at the sight of some colorful Speedos, which were offered to him by a reporter to wear. He immediately ended the interview after that, just walking away from the camera and leaving the reporter there. But what we didn't get to see was what Magomed revealed became an intense moment with Makhachev, who was thinking about walking back to the reporter and slapping him. According to Magomed, after the reporter unexpectedly pulled out the Speedos and offered them to Islam, which resulted in the interview's abrupt end, Makhachev got really angry about what took place and perceived it as a disrespectful act from the reporter. Here's what Magomed said about the incident when asked whether the active media phase during fight weeks exhausts Islam like it does to many fighters, considering they also have to cut weight. Quote, "Things can get redundant, especially when the fight itself is only days away, and you have to deal with shedding extra kilograms. It's tough to be in the mood to do interviews and talk about the same stuff for hours. But even worse is when someone tries to be funny and does some silly stuff, especially reporters. One guy pulled out some underwear and I don't know what he was doing. He tried to give it to Islam or something. Islam just walked away and ended the interview, but he was really irritated about that. I remember he wanted even to go back and slap him, but thankfully we were able to stop that." End quote. Chael Sonnen is amused by Belal Muhammad's attempts to successfully trash talk after the welterweight champion makes some comments in criticism of Kamaru Usman and his title reign. The rivalry between Usman and Belal began soon after the latter became champion. The two began exchanging insults and all sorts of statements that weren't friendly, as Usman vowed to get back to a title fight and take away Muhammad's belt. What Belal didn't like the most was Kamaru's attitude toward him as an unworthy champion who can't even be compared to himself as the king of the division. One of the highlights of their rivalry was Belal going on Usman's and Cejudo's podcast, which, as all parties involved later described, turned into a hostile interaction between Kamaru and Belal, with two of them almost coming to blows. We're still waiting for the podcast to be released, but the story itself made the rivalry actually interesting to many people. Recently, Belal came out in criticism of Kamaru and his championship reign, saying that the Nigerian avoided tough challengers. Chael was pretty amused and thought it's a nonsensical thing to say.
The sitting champion who's yet to defend the belt is teasing the former champion who repeatedly defended the belt. The sitting champion who doesn't know what his next fight is does podcasts to build up the fight about the former champion who doesn't know what his next fight is, who also goes on, does his podcast. It's just great. Now, I will give Belal 1 point. I will give him something, okay? If he goes out in his first title defense and puts it against Rachmanov, which I'm well aware he's prepared mentally and getting himself physically prepared to do. I'm just sharing, if he does that, he will never fall into a category where you could paint him as a closet champion.